If you've ever wished you had a podcasting pro with nearly a decade of experience whispering growth secrets into your ear, that's exactly what you'll get when you tune into Podcast Growth Tools with me, your host, Kylie Chandler. This is the ultimate show for you if you're ready to grow your podcast audience, skyrocket engagement, and turn your show into a traffic-driving, list-building powerhouse. I've been in the podcasting world since 2015, helping creators like Amy Porterfield grow their shows to over 1 million downloads a month. My superpower? Breaking down proven podcast strategies and marketing techniques into step-by-step guidance you can actually implement without fluff, overwhelm, or guesswork. On this show, we're getting real about what actually moves the needle when it comes to growing your podcast audience and using it to boost your email list growth. From actionable insights and expert interviews to behind-the-scenes secrets, I'll help you turn your podcast into a traffic-driving, list-growing machine. Grab your earbuds, hit subscribe, and let's take your podcast to the next level. Hey, and welcome back to the Podcast Growth Tools podcast. I was laughing the other day because I was talking to a friend and I'm telling her about this podcast. And I said, it's a podcast about podcasts and how to grow a podcast. And it's so funny because it feels very meta, but I love it. So I hope you're enjoying it as well. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to dive into one of what I think is kind of an underrated tool in your podcasting toolbox, and honestly, just your entrepreneur or your business toolbox. And that is SEO-Rich blog style podcast show notes. Now, if you've been treating your show notes like an afterthought, I know it happens. You're not alone. Also, on the other side, if you've been spending time on your show notes and you know that you can enhance them and make them a little bit better and make them work better for you and for your business, you're also going to love this show. So it's great for everyone, whether you need a lot of improvement on your show notes or a little bit of improvement. I'm going to show you how to turn your show notes into a traffic driving, listener engaging, list building machine that starts to help you rank and drives more traffic to your website, drives more traffic to your podcast, and drives more traffic to your email list, right? They all go hand in hand. By the end of this episode, you'll have a step-by-step game plan to create show notes that rank in search engines, drive discoverability, and even grow your audience. So if you're ready, let's dive in. So let's kick things off with the basics. What exactly are SEO-Rich blog style show notes? Think of them as your episode's ultimate resource center. So they're not just kind of a summary. They're actually a blend of a blog post / resource hub / gateway into your business. And they are designed specifically to attract search engine traffic and provide value to potential listeners. One thing I want to note is that when you are creating SEO-Rich blog style show notes or anything, anytime we're working with SEO stuff, it's going to take time. You have to invest and really watch them grow over time. So don't expect to put up show notes and then you're ranking at the top the next day. Especially if SEO is something you haven't been focusing on, it's going to take a little while for your website to really start to generate the rankings. So when I say SEO-Rich blog style show notes, I mean that these would live on your website. So just to be clear, I know that you'll also be putting show notes in the description of your podcast player and your podcast platforms. You can, and I recommend taking excerpts from the show notes that you write for those, but you're not necessarily going to put this entire really long blog style show notes into those. So I just want to be clear on that. Here's what sets SEO-Rich blog style show notes apart. They're going to intentionally include target keywords to boost discoverability. They're structured for readability with headings, lists, bullets, images, timestamps, things like that. And they go beyond just describing the episode. They engage, they inform, they convert casual browsers into loyal listeners, email subscribers, and then potentially paying customers. So if you ever look at the Tim Ferriss show, his show notes include comprehensive timestamps, guest bios, links to resources. This structure is not only improving his search rankings, but it's also making it very easy for listeners to find exactly what they're looking for, or somebody who lands on his blog who might not be aware of his podcast. I mean, let's be honest, feels like everyone knows about his podcast show, but if somebody were to land on your show notes and they weren't aware that you had a podcast, it's a great way to drive traffic in both directions. Okay, now let's get into the fun part of all of this. So crafting your show notes. First of all, we're obviously going to be integrating AI with this because it's a great way to kind of kick off and get started creating those show notes without a lot of upfront work. So once you record your episode, simply download a transcript from whatever platform you're using. Most hosting platforms or tools have this. You can also use Descript. You can generate one for you. Next, you're going to take your transcript. You'll upload it into whatever AI platform you like, right? So ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, whatever you want, and use this prompt. I'll give it to you guys twice, and then I'll also put it in the show notes and the podcast description. Here's the prompt. Turn this script into an SEO-rich blog style show notes. Include a keyword optimized title, engaging introduction, timestamps with highlights, key takeaways, and a strong CTA. Make it easy to read with headings, bullets, and short paragraphs. Use a friendly and professional tone. All right, I'm going to say that for you again, but there's a few things that I want you to know you will change when you put this prompt in. And that is, one, if you know the CTA you want to use, tell it right now. So, for example, if you have a lead magnet, go ahead and say, this is the lead magnet. Be sure to use that as my CTA at the end. Or if you want people to book a consultation, give your AI platform that information. If you already have a title or something like that for your podcast, be sure that you're giving that to your AI. And then also with time, this will get better and you'll probably get more specific about this type of prompt. But I'm going to repeat it again. So turn this transcript into an SEO-rich blog style show notes. Include a keyword optimized title, engaging introduction, timestamped highlights, key takeaways, and a strong CTA. Again, you can get more detailed with many of those, right? As you do this more and more. And then make it easy to read with headlines, bullet points, short paragraphs. Use a friendly and professional tone. Again, also that end part, the use a professional and friendly tone. Whatever your tone, your business tone is, it's going to be different for everyone. One thing I always talk about, and I just want to make sure it's very clear, is that the more you train your AI to speak like you and write like your business, whatever it is, the quicker you'll be able to achieve these types of tasks. So make sure that you're not just taking what it gives you and then running with it. Make sure you're going back and almost teaching your AI how to sound like you. And also, if there's a template or a format that you like, be sure that you're giving it those types of things so that it can spit out the best version for you, because there are different nuances for all of us, right? And how we talk, how our brand is, our tone, things like that. So the more you give it to work with, the better it will be at spitting out show notes or honestly just any type of marketing content or copy. So after that prompt, the AI will give you a solid draft, I would say. Especially the longer you do this, the more you do this, it'll get better. But ultimately, as with anything in AI, it's going to be up to you to refine it. So go back, check for keyword integration. If it's your podcast episode, you're going to have an idea of what keywords will resonate with your audience, what keywords they're searching, those types of things. So just be watching out for that. Read it for clarity and flow. And then also personal touches with brand, voice, all that good stuff. Okay, so now that you have this draft from AI, you're going to take it a few more steps to really optimize it and make sure that your show notes feel like they came from you, not from AI. So let's get into it. Okay, so review your title and make sure that it does have a keyword optimization or a couple keywords in it. I mean, your title is everything, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a podcast episode, it should include primary keywords that you are aiming to have people search, right? Even when we're talking about a podcast episode, people are searching for those specific keywords in the platforms. So make sure you're using them. So, obviously a really weak title is like episode 12, marketing tips to skyrocket your podcast audience. Be really specific. So, for example, maybe instead it would be 5 proven marketing strategies for B2B companies to skyrocket your podcast audience. I just met with a client recently and we were reviewing her podcast titles, which she will also use for her blog style show notes. And it was so interesting to see how she could tweak the titles of her episodes with one word. We're not talking about completely redoing them and making them really long. It's just being more specific about who her client is. And she forgot to put those in there. And sometimes when we're in it, it's really easy to forget how important those very specific keywords are. So take your time with titles, blog post titles, podcast titles, and make sure that you're really thinking through who is this for? What are they searching? All right, so next up, let's get into a little bit of the layout of your show notes. So make sure right from the get-go that you have an engaging introduction. So summarize the episode while addressing the pain points of your audience. Remember that this is a written medium, so you want to make sure that your intro is engaging and it captures the reader's attention right from the get-go and tells them exactly what they need to know, including what they're going to learn, who this is for, and what value it offers, because the intro is where they start to self-qualify themselves to continue to read or continue to engage with this piece of content or any kind of content that is linked up within the blog post. So whether that is your podcast or whether it is a YouTube video. Now, after the intro, I personally love to input a podcast player from your episode. So you can literally grab this from your hosting platform. So if you have Libsyn or Podbean, you can grab it directly from Apple for the episode. You can grab it directly from Spotify. Whatever works for you, whatever is best for you, it all is good. It's all great. I personally use Apple at this time just because that's where I'm trying to drive traffic and rank on. So that's what I'm doing there because it's just another place for people to interact with my Apple version. A lot of people just do their podcast hosting player because it's more user friendly from a place of people who don't have Apple or iPhones can't really use the Apple podcast player. So something to think about. All right, so next I recommend adding a section that is all about what they're going to learn in this blog post and episode. It's almost like a drive-by for them, right? For them to really understand the value they're going to get, this is a great way to just give it to them up front. It's also a really great way to infuse keywords to help your blog post rank. So I do this as a bulleted section and I like to add timestamps. You'll notice that if you go check out my show notes. So I know we gave the AI prompt to give you timestamps. Unless you're using something or an AI platform that you can upload your video or your audio to, you're going to have to go in and add the timestamps. But I like to make this section really easy to skim. So this is also where you want to be thinking about how all of your different readers consume content. So some people love to read every single word. Some love to skim. Some love to listen. Some love to watch. So keep that in mind always, right? No matter what kind of content you're creating for marketing. Next, I highly recommend that you include badges from the top players that your audience listens to. So for me, many of my listeners are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. So those are what I like to add, the badges for those. I add those directly to my show notes. I would recommend keeping it to like 3, maybe 4 at the max. You don't want to have just like a ton of badges on your show notes. But these are really easy to grab. So you can simply Google Apple Podcast badge or Spotify Podcast badge. They all have a marketing platform, if you will, and you can grab it and download it directly from there and then just have it in your show notes and keep it there so that you can use it every single time. That reminds me, one thing that I would recommend doing to make your life or your VA or your team's life easier is to create a template of your show notes of everything we're talking about here. Create a template in your website, and all you have to do is go copy the template and then edit the section. So something to keep in mind. Once you have your badges, you'll simply input them. I do think it's beneficial to have them slightly towards the top, just in case somebody decides they want to listen, or they're reading through it, but they want to listen later, they want to download the episode, or they're new and they want to make sure they have you in their player platform. So you can simply do that. You can link up to them. It's very quick, it's very easy, and it's very beneficial to have them right there. Next, you're going to move into the real meat of the show notes. And this is where the main focuses or the main key takeaways will be for your episode and your show notes, right? So maybe you did 3 key takeaways in your podcast episode, or you have 5 steps, or whatever it might be. Break those down here. Use this as the bulk of your show notes. And this is a great place to use really strong keywords that people will be searching. Another thing that you want to be thinking about as you move through these show notes is, how can I start to add in media? So if you included the podcast player, that's media. If you have those badges, those are images, that's media. Something that I'm going to get into in a second is like having an image to direct people for whatever you want them to do next. So if it's a free resource or something, having a really pretty image that encourages them to click. Maybe you use Pinterest and you've created a Pinterest pin that you want to import there. Maybe it's an image of your guest. Maybe it's a YouTube video. If you're using YouTube, I do, so I put that in there as well. And then just make sure that with all of these, you're doing alt text to help boost SEO as well. So take the time to do that, to edit them, all that good stuff. Okay, lastly, there's kind of 2 things that you'll finish off your show notes with. One is you're going to close with a strong CTA. I can't emphasize this enough. Give your readers the exact next steps, right? So when they get to the end of your show notes, you want to be thinking, what am I going to ask my readers to do next? So this could be a great time to include a free resource. It's a great time to invite them to join your newsletter. It's a great time to invite them to book a consultation. A great way to drive traffic to your podcast and also get their email is to put together a playlist of your top episodes related to a specific topic, and then put those into a free resource and have them sign up for it. And then you can send them the bundle. You can send them a PDF with the episodes on it, or you can send them an email with the episodes directly linked in it. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can make it very simple, but make sure that you're adding it there. And like I said, if you want to go above and beyond, and this is great for SEO too, put a really pretty image that prompts them to sign up for that free resource, or book that consultation, or get on your newsletter. I like to say that you want to make this section very obvious. So on top of having the image, on top of the ask, you can also just embed from your email service provider a form that collects the name and the email directly from them right there. So again, you can see this on my show notes. That way it's like one less step for you to ask them to click out to go to a form to fill out. They can just fill it out right on the page. So I recommend embedding it through your email service provider onto your website. And then lastly, be sure to include any resources that were mentioned during your podcast and throughout your show notes and link them up. This is a great way to externally link to other credible websites. And it's a great way also to add any affiliate links that you may have mentioned so that you can get a kickback. Now that you have a solid foundation for your show notes and you used AI to really get you going with them, you want to go back and put those show notes back into your AI platform and then ask it for a little further help, especially when it comes to SEO. ChatGPT specifically, I don't know if you've noticed this or if you found this, but if you go to the Explore GPTs, which is kind of on the top left menu, you can search fully SEO optimized or SEO, and it's going to come up with GPTs, I guess is what they call them, that are specifically trained in that. And so I would recommend using one of those. And you're going to go and you're going to input the show notes that you've now created alongside AI. And you are going to have them take it one step further. You're going to ask it to help you enhance SEO and the keywords throughout your show notes. So you can use prompts like, what are the top ranking keywords for this episode's topic? Or suggest a long tail keyword related to whatever the topic is. So you can kind of start to play around with it and see if you hit on the keywords. Like when you ask, what are the top ranking keywords here? Make sure it's coming back with the keywords you want. Or you can even say, how can I enhance this to make it even better and to hit better on XYZ keywords? You can also ask it to create SEO friendly headings for certain sections. So if it didn't do this for you right away, or if you want to make them better, you can have it support you with that. You can also select a specific paragraph and say, rewrite this paragraph and improve its readability and include XYZ keywords. Those are a few prompts that you can use to really take it even further with AI. The last thing is you want to update your meta information. Now that your AI platform has your blog post finalized, you can then ask for a meta title and a meta description. So it's as simple as, can you please write an SEO-Rich meta title and description for this blog post? And then it'll spit it out for you. And then the other thing is you want to consider creating a feature image or a social share image for your blog post. Keep that in mind. And really, like I said, create a template, create a system, create an SOP. And when you have those things, you'll be able to get into a flow. You can hand it off to a VA or a teammate, things like that, so that it goes a lot quicker for you. So let's just do a very quick recap. So you're going to download your transcript and then work with AI to draft your show notes. From there, make sure that you're thinking about all those sections we talked about today and enhancing them, optimizing titles, your structure, keywords, and using any media, timestamps, and then really being intentional about your CTA. By doing all of this, you're going to be ahead of the curve. A lot of people aren't doing this, surprisingly. And so, like I said, if you can get into a flow, if you can create an SOP, even if you have a small team or if you're a solo entrepreneur, you can make this process really quick and really fast and be reaping the benefit of ranking on SEO, driving traffic, using it to get email subscribers, all of those good things. All right, so that is a wrap for today's episode. I hope you're as excited as I am about using AI in tandem with SEO to really enhance your show notes. Don't forget to follow, leave a review, share it with fellow entrepreneurs, podcasters. And then, of course, for more resources, be sure to head to podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe, where you'll jump on my newsletter and then you will be in the know for all of the podcasting tips and tools to really grow this year. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and let's make your podcast what it's really supposed to be this year in your business. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next week.